Hey guys, this is Markuis for CardRunners.com, and today I'm going to be making a bit of a different video, and I'm going to be reviewing CardRunners instructor Balbomb. He's going to try his hand at heads up, and he told me that he doesn't have too much experience playing heads up, but I know he's a good 6-max player, and we decided we'd do kind of an exchange where I play 6-max, and he reviews my play, and he plays heads up, and I review his play. So I think there should be some interesting content. I think it'll be different than just seeing me play constantly, and I think there's a lot more to talk about usually when you're watching someone else play because they'll be making plays that are different than what you might make. So on the right table, he has flop second pair, and my standard would be to check back the flop, but I think a bet's okay too. I have no reads at all on how Balbomb plays or how his opponent plays, so I'll be generating reads as we go along. And I haven't looked over any of these hands or anything like that, so it'll be a little bit like a live play video. But I'll be stopping and pausing. Okay, so he c-bets the 8-9. I think that's fine. Like I said, my standard would be to check it back, but I think betting is perfectly fine. So he 3-bets to 4x. That's the size I'd make it versus a min raise, and I think king 5 suited is definitely a good candidate for the 3-bet. And he takes it down. On the right table, I would definitely check back this turn now. I see a lot of heads-up players these days betting pairs like this on the turn and flop and turn, and I think it's a little bit too loose for value. I think it makes it depends how wide you're barreling with your air, but I think a lot of times it'll make your turn betting range on like an offsuit 3 or something kind of value heavy if you're betting all your pairs or all your second pairs and top pairs. So yeah, I'm not in love with this bet. I think it's too thin. Against a weak player, it's not the end of the world because they'll check call some kind of a junky draws a decent bit, but there's no reason to assume that his opponent's weak. Yeah, and I think it's a bit too thin, but he rivers an 8 and I'll definitely be value betting now. I don't think it looks like you have an 8 a lot, and I think that your opponent has a lot of queens in his range, or something that he's just going to fold regardless, so maybe hearts, or he got stubborn with like 10-9 or something. So I don't think it's a terrible spot for an overbet here, just because it really doesn't seem like you'd bet the flop and turn with an 8, and people have trouble folding top pair when you're representing a pretty narrow value range. I mean, if I was in villain's shoes and someone overbet here and I had queen X, I would strongly consider calling. So yeah, that's an awesome overbet by Balbomb. I think that's great. And he does call. So I like the river play. I think the flop's debatable, but I think the turn's too thin. On the left table, I'd see about this flop. I'd call a check raise usually, and if my opponent check called, I'll usually barrel on most turns because most of them will be overcards, and a lot of villains check calling range there is going to be like ace highs, king highs, and sometimes just 2 overcards. Okay, so it looks like a misclick on the right table. I think 7-9 suited's fine to 3-bet, fine to call. Not too much to say about it. I would c-bet this board. Occasionally I'd go for a delayed c-bet. I'll just wait until his hand history. Oh, he's showing us what villain had. I can't really see what his opponent had in this hand, so I don't know. Oh well. So yeah, I think delayed c-betting on the right table is not the end of the world because a lot of people are going to assume that you're checking a hand like queen X or maybe a weak ace X, and they're not going to stab too often on this board. So I think it looks really credible when you check the flop, they check back a lot of their air, and then you bet the turn. But I wouldn't do that early on because I wouldn't assume that my opponent's making those assumptions. So my standard would be to bet here. And turning a 9, I would have bet if I turned nothing after checking the flop for sure, but turning a 9 now I would check. I think it's too thin to bet.